The taping of the confession back in 1996 is still relevant today and should be of concern to citizens still today, because there's an overarching sense then that the government won't stop at anything in order to achieve its objectives, whether that be in the legal realm or otherwise. What else is at risk? You know, if people don't stop at what is held to be sacred and a major tenet of someone's religious practices, then what else is at risk? What other rights stand to possibly be violated and lost? My name is Jessica May, and I'm an associate attorney at Arnold Law, practicing complex civil litigation, criminal defense, and family law. I've taken an interest in Patty Perlow applying for the position of district attorney, mostly because of her involvement with the taping of a confession heard by Father Timothy Mockaitis of a murder defendant at the Lane County Jail back in 1996. Patty Perlow was one of the district attorneys on the case prosecuting Conan Wayne Hale for the triple homicide, and once it was discovered by that office, by the district attorney's office, that Father Tim had indeed visited Mr. Hale in order to hear his confession, the district attorney went about obtaining the tape recording of that visit, and Patty Perlow listened to the confession. It's personal to me as a citizen of Lane County and as a practicing Roman Catholic. The taping of that confession was a major violation of a sacred religious right and a violation of citizens' rights to and freedom to practice their religion. I first heard about this violation when I was 10 years old back in 1996. As soon as it became known that this confession had been taped, the news spread like wildfire, and people were outraged. People from all over the world were outraged, including the Vatican. I was very upset even as a child because, you know, having been raised in the Catholic Church, it was ingrained in me the importance of this sacred sacrament, and it was always understood that this was something that was secret. And so by having this confession that Father Tim heard recorded, it made me, even personally, even at the young age of 10, feel as though there was this risk that it may not be secret. The interesting thing is, the sacrament of confession, it's widely accepted that people confess to sins, to crimes, to their priests or other members of clergy often. But there was particular support, I think, in this instance for one listening to only because it had already been recorded. I don't know if it hadn't been recorded, if there would have been such an interest then in doing so, because it is something that is so societally accepted that it's secret and it's confidential. But being that this confession was recorded, I definitely understand the want, the desire to listen to it, to see if there was anything indicative in that confession of what happened to those 3 teenagers back in 1995. But to think that way is very Machiavellian. To think that just because we could get this evidence justifies having violated this fundamental right. And that's typically not how we try to operate. Because in doing so, we lose character, we lose integrity, if we're willing to go to whatever lengths necessary in order to achieve a certain objective. The state had other means of doing that. The state had other means of proving their case, which they eventually did when a jury found him guilty of those murders and sentenced him to death eventually in 1998. So that shows that there were other ways of getting about the end that they desired to achieve, and doing it the right way without having to violate his constitutional fundamental rights. The Office of District Attorney is a highly political, highly influential position in this county, and we would really want someone in that position who is a person of integrity, who is a person who isn't afraid to make the hard decision. Concern is an appropriate word for my position as it regards Patty Perlow and her application for district attorney. It isn't a critique on her morality, it isn't a critique on the choices she has made in her role as an attorney and in the district attorney's office, but rather it is a critique of a decision she made back in 1996 regarding this taped confession, and a concern for what she will do with then more power and influence in the position of district attorney. While this isn't an elected position at this time, at least, it is an appointment made by the governor. The governor still has a responsibility to her constituents to do what is best for them. So if this knowledge of the case that Ms. Perlow was involved in back in 1996 causes concern for citizens today and how she will operate in that office of district attorney if she were to be appointed, they should absolutely feel that they should call their representative, the governor, and voice that concern to her as she then looks at making her appointment. I'm not one who sits back and doesn't say anything when I feel like I should. So I was always intrigued by the profession of law because it allowed me that voice and the abilities that came from that education to engage in public discourse about certain subjects. And being a Catholic and believing in the rights of all citizens, no matter their faiths or religious backgrounds, I wanted to get involved in promoting the rights of the individual and the rights of citizens. This is important because we live in a democratic society. We live in a society in which our voices should be heard if we want them to be heard.